Thank you. Hi, everyone. Wait. No, don't let me stop you. Keep going. Thank you for that. Right, I've got 20 minutes. Really awkward thing. I'm going to be very transparent, open, and honest with you. I've got a 45-minute presentation. Marketing said you're on at 13:45. You're off at 2:30. Fill your boots. Like you, Deborah, this is my fourth session. It's the second time I've followed you as well, so I know somebody's trying to tell me something. Right. Today's session, you're going to have to strap yourself in because we're going to go through 45 minutes worth of content. I've got a load of slides, load of graphs. Tommy and Joe at the back have got all the research that underpins this. Wave your hands, guys. Do and grab them. Two consultants have worked for me. The two on their website standing. Go and grab the slides if you're not quick enough to catch up with it. Right. Today's a journey. I want to take you on a journey. I want to take you on a journey that talks to some of our latest research. Some of our latest research that really will see unprecedented change in the next 5 years. I don't believe it's the next 5 years. I've been speaking to a lot of people, and it's happening now. It's going to impact your lives in the next 12 months. And that's about the emerging workplace trend. We call it, back here, the transition from human to hybrid. I want to use this time to provide you with some context backed by reference points and some of the research. And I want to unpack what will working in a fully optimized digital environment look like. What are the key drivers that will improve employee experience? I want to talk about taking a strategic approach to well-being, and I've got some slides and models that you guys can take away with you today, no charge. And finally, how will well-being and benefit strategies support that journey to hybrid workforce? I'm struck by this photo. Has anybody seen this photo? Does anyone know who this guy is? I thought you had to raise your hand. Just doing your hand. No, it's fine. You can, free movement. It's all good. I won't pants. This is Jorma Lila. He's the chief executive, former chief executive of a company called Nokia. Ever heard of Nokia? Do you remember when Nokia were really cool? Yeah, I know. It's like, wow, hold on a minute. That's a little bit harsh. Discrimination. So they were really cool until about 2007, and then everything changed for Nokia. Nokia failed as an organization. I'm using a bold word there. Nokia failed, not because they didn't do anything wrong. In fact, they were a phenomenally well-run business. You can go to business school and learn all about that. Don't pay attention to the marketing teams. That's the important thing. They lost because they didn't respond to changing trends. Those are changing trends really in their users and their consumers from a business perspective. Does that make sense? Okay, so I remember what was it that moved Nokia away? Ever got one in the pocket? I've actually put mine down there. I'm a bit nervous. I didn't want to spoil the line in my suit. It's over in the corner. If I don't pick my phone up, I'm in a world of shit. Everything's inside there. Anyway, their core markets disappeared overnight. Actually, their core markets didn't disappear overnight. They tripled. Nokia, to my mind, lost their relevance to their core markets. And a piece that I want to talk about today is how you maintain your relevance to your core markets, which is principally the employee base. So what do I mean by human to hybrid? I'm sure you're all aware the world of work is changing. I can remember doing the first session here 5 years ago, I think it was. And I've talked about employee benefits. I've talked about data analytics. I've talked about last year, really successful one last year. We talked about millennials. And I get this ironic, being a guy from Capita wearing a suit with graying hair, talking about millennials. So we've talked about the whole changing world of work. The shift that we're experiencing at the moment is a huge increase in the application of artificial intelligence. It's machine learning and it's technology. You're going to hear me talk about chatbots and tutor bots and a whole range of other initiatives. This is where humans will work in a fully digitized and technology-optimized environment and increasingly use artificial intelligence. I don't think this means that humans become cyborgs, but it does mean that our agility and ability to work in the traditional environments has got to change. So we commissioned a stack of research, a load of research information there, about 3,000 organizations, 7 major industries that were covered. Everybody employed more than 100 employees, and half of the audience were more than 500 employees. So a lot of relevance attached to that. Our research shows that the majority of leaders agreed that the transition to hybrid workforce is really quite important. It needs to be managed properly, and it needs to be managed fast. I want to give some live examples from clients later on as to why you should be putting this type of transition at the forefront of your planning. 72% of leaders see the transition to hybrid workforce over the next 5 years as their biggest challenge. Let me be honest with you. If you see it as your big challenge in the next 5 years, you've got to rethink and bring that forward probably to the next 6 to 12 months. Worryingly for me, the lens often used by leaders isn't about the employee or the person. It's about the organization responding to a digital environment. Given this, it's very clear that a strong vision and focused plan is going to be vital, especially as more than half of employees will look to leave your organization if you don't get with the program. We can summarize this with the emergence of 3 strategic levers. That's digital, data, and people. 88% of leaders pointed to these levers to support their business, help them achieve that change. So if you haven't got a plan that talks about the digitization of work and the workspace, and you haven't got a plan that talks to the data, you mentioned the data in every single facet, and I was struck by the whole Excel spreadsheet. I've never been in an Excel spreadsheet course. My son's just hit a period of time at secondary school where he now needs to Excel. Dad, can you teach me Excel? I haven't got a clue. Haven't got a clue how to use Excel. But you just kind of intrinsically get to it. That's a thing of the past. We're going to be using much more intuitive data streams. But if we don't, we're going to be left with a whole lot less relevance to the millions of people that we're trying to attract into the workspace. Let me now talk about what will working in a fully optimized digital environment look like. From my, is that counting up or counting down, by the way? Oh, thank God for that. That's like 5 minutes. I'm thinking this is not going very well. So let me attempt to bring it to life. Look, for some of you, this will make very uncomfortable career planning. For those of you that have been at these events, I used to be the head of the health business at Capita. It's quite good because on one of these, 11 of the top 25 fastest growing occupations are in healthcare. So I'm going to keep hold of those businesses, I think, within the Capita context. Technological change accelerates. The world's workforce needs to evolve. Those who fail to take control of their futures risk becoming, like Nokia, irrelevant. So, as I mentioned earlier on, the hybrid workforce, rather than replacing the human, technology is freeing workers to focus on higher value activities. It's the extremes of the imbalance that really matter. 23% of the UK lack digital skills. 23%. And yet 90% of new roles require them. There's been an explosion of growth in the gig economy, 25% increase in non-employment. But what does that mean for traditional benefit packages? 70% of workers displaced by technology, and the 70% one, our marketing team are like really pleased with that. That's great. These people are all moving to new, flourishing environments. Like, where the hell are they going? If they've been displaced by technology, where are these individuals moving to? How are we accommodating them? Where is the workplace relevant for those employees? Technology will make life harder for those without the skills, without the education, without the agility, and will make the war on talent more fiercely fought. Let me give you an example when we talk about healthcare. 11 of the top 25 fastest growing occupations right now are in healthcare. Why? Because actually it's quite fiddly. Human beings were quite fiddly things, big, pink, squishy things, a bit difficult. Got a lot of machines that try and do a lot of the diagnostic work, but when it comes down to it, healthcare is still a highly intuitive, hands-on role. The NHS, you mentioned the election. I could probably go there. A couple of big headline-grabbing points. We need to recruit 50,000 nurses. We do. Let me give you a big issue on this one. If we recruited every single nurse that's qualified in the UK today, we would still have a shortfall of about 15 to 20,000. Ever know that? It's quite a challenge. Okay. So we have to look abroad. This becomes a global challenge. This is really important. If you're a newly qualified nurse in India and you can travel, you can triple or more your salary by moving to the UK. Politically, this is great for the UK. You get big headlines, we're filling the NHS is working. But in the very near future, morally, I think this is a significant challenge. Because we're winning an economic battle, but we're doing it at the expense of somewhere else. And we're no longer living in a purely local workforce. Does that make sense? Good. Bit of nodding. I'll take that as encouragement. So the transition to hybrid workforce is likely to accelerate the globalization of talent. And if you're not thinking about global or local or flexible systems, then you're not going to be relevant. And what do business leaders see as the most important areas to address? Well, leadership, skills, and culture. Put simply, whereas 72% of leaders express a need to do something, 81% of leaders right now aren't equipped to manage that transition. And we're talking here about the training, the systems, the onboarding, all of that. I'm no statistician, but that does feel like we've got a quite significant gap. Really busy slide, this one. I want to take a look at the near-term changes. I won't read through all of these points, but I want to highlight some that caught my eye, which I think warrant further conversation. So, performance management through technology. Anybody here in sales? Anybody know people in sales? Have you got a CRM in place like Salesforce or something like that? Sales managers love Salesforce. Why? Because it gives them data to manage performance on. To my mind, gone are the days that performance management is the preserve of sales or production lines or widget manufacturers. Artificial intelligence, and we've seen this with some clients, we've been working this, artificial intelligence can now monitor remotely your keystrokes. I have seen outputs and maps where they map the ecosystem and your influence within client organizations. Who do you know? How do you manage it? What does that look like? It can determine the quality of your customer engagement. So that whole performance management is shifting significantly and will impact everyone in whole new ways. Upskilling and reskilling, sure, the pace that change will take place. We'll see a shift to lifelong learning. I'm sure we will do. But in my view, we're more likely to see dramatic shifts where thousands of people in one industry need to reskill really quickly to move into a new one. I'll give you a quick example. Anybody use Uber? Anybody use Uber? Try and use it today. 46,000 Uber drivers suddenly going, what do I do? Yeah? So these shifts can take place. We're technologically enabled. And it happens, I can't remember, we were at a meeting the other day. I had to grab a cab, and I got this guy's last cab he's going to be in. Well, not, he's an Uber. So that's a technology shift that's taking place that's dramatically impacting 46,000 people. God knows what they're doing today, but they need to reskill, train. I'm sure they'll arrange things with TfL. It'll all be good. I'm interested as well in some of the developing social issues. So lack of or no line manager support, which is down here. 79% of people really talk about these from a well-being perspective. In a hybrid world, I doubt that the human will be able to evolve fast enough to cope with isolation and perform when our social environments and our construct are all about being a social animal. I find it very difficult. Anybody here work remotely? Yeah? I find it very difficult to work permanently remotely, and will need to come in to see my teams and work with people and just engage, have conversation, discourse, and so on, 2-3 times a week. Plus, I also get dragged into an awful lot of ferrying my children around, which I love doing, but it's an intense job, and I think it's quite challenging. Other piece for me, I'm quite big into mental health. Mental health planning and support systems are already struggling, and yet in the new environment, how are you going to watch the performance of people, watch the interventions that are required? I think we need to rethink. We're not doing a good job on mental health at the moment, but in the very near future, we're going to have to work doubly hard, and there's a lot of people out there who talk about apps and so on. Let me close this section with a snapshot. That's it, sorry. Stay on that one. Thank you. Of the current trends and wellbeing problems today. They're not that different from the near future. It's about work, the meaningfulness of work, the social engagement, and the balance of training, expertise, and reward, which, look, greater people than me can talk about the reward side of things. Right, now it's time for your giveaway models. Always promise those. Anybody here got a wellness program, wellbeing program, don't mind what you call it? Yep, feel free, you can shout out. Great, good. Right place to be if you've got one. If you've not built your organizational approach to wellbeing on a solid strategic footing, it'll fail. I spend a lot of my time with clients, frankly, unpacking 5 or 6 years worth of really good, well-meaning initiatives and plans. The slides are going to be available afterwards if you don't get a chance to look at these. I spend a lot of my time redefining the brand, the employee values, the metrics, the pillars, the tools, the apps, all within the context of the clearly defined organizational principles. Frankly, we start with this with our clients. So in the near future, when you start to talk about a remote workforce, a highly engaged workforce, a hybrid workforce where digital is the norm, start with your strategy. Don't try to radically alter some of the solutions you're implementing. And let me bring this into land for you guys. I want to talk about 6 wellness imperatives that will help you get it right. So these are 6 points that you can take away today on top of that model. Number 1, you've got to have a clear ownership of the agenda. 45% of HR leaders cite a lack of ownership as one of the 3 biggest barriers to improving well-being. Let me quick show of hands. How many people here have the chief executive? Keep your hand down. I'm sure you're involved. We've got the chief executive, senior leadership are actively involved in the well-being program. Great. Go back 3 years ago, that just wasn't the case. It was always something that was put to one side. You need to have senior leadership for you to be able to share clear strategies, and you've got to take control and responsibility. The role of the line manager. The line manager is, in my opinion, your secret weapon when it comes to achieving successful, lasting, low-cost well-being initiatives. With day-to-day responsibility for team members, even in a hybrid environment, they're critical in engaging with the employee base. I encourage every client to get the line manager as champions on board very early. Real simple implementation, Wellbeing champions, get your line managers engaged in any of those. Anybody rolled out Workday or anything like that recently? Yeah, we had. We're doing it in the middle of Capita at the moment. And they've jumped to, we need Workday champions. We've got champions at the moment for pretty much everything. Champions, the reason we do that, they're really successful. Advocates who support things. Take a holistic approach to wellness. Avoid fads. And I'm not saying anything about what's going on outside. Actually, I've been really impressed with most of the stuff that come on there. But I get pitched almost every week with the latest idea, the newest idea in wellness. In fact, there was one, I think a guy came along to speak to the two of you today about it, because I couldn't meet with them. Stick to your pillars. Define your pillar trends. We used to call this the Biochosocial model. It's been made more accessible recently, and actually I've seen a lot of clients pivot the pillars of their well-being strategy to probably physical and mental well-being, financial, and actually more importantly, in my view, career, and the value of the career and the value of working for your organizations. Let me give you a quick example. In terms of performance culture, good work and engagement, in terms of performance outputs, trumps long-term physical gains every single time. So what I mean by that is, I'll give you a quick extreme example. You get somebody to stop smoking through a wellbeing program, which is quite good, non-smoking days. When's the payoff? And in a hybrid workforce, you're unlikely to keep people for exceptionally long periods of time. You'll have an awful lot more gig workers, people coming in and out. Creating quality work, quality systems that can have a job and give people the support to make right choices. Those are going to be winning formula for organizations. You need to think deeply, and you mentioned this, I was really pleased you mentioned it, and also pleased that I'm not cribbing a lot of your items. But you need to think deeply about the employee life cycle. How long is it? How soon do people get up to creating value for you? As we move to hybrid workforce, that life cycle is getting much, much shorter. What you do as they arrive, and I'm talking here about onboarding, social engagement, pre-boarding, the employee value proposition, matters as much as when they leave. The vast majority of organizations that I work with do nothing to support people on the transition out of their employment. And actually, the talent of today becomes tomorrow's alumni. And harvesting that alumni is going to be a critical performance edge for your organization, particularly when you're looking for specific skills linked to specific projects. Does that make sense? Good. You need to be transparent about the future, whether that's your translation to the hybrid workforce, advent of new working patterns, or the obsolescence of roles. Why did I put obsolescence in here? It seemed like a good idea at the time. Your people want to know, they want to be engaged, and they want the opportunity to reskill. Okay, going to bring it to land now. As the nature of work transforms in the future, employers will need to create a strong and inclusive culture that supports as well as challenges and incentivizes your people. If everyone in the gig economy, your benefit package could feasibly become irrelevant. It's one of the big challenges for the likes of the Uber, the Deliveroos, and the other big gig economy organizations. What exactly are we giving people? Yeah, we talk about flexibility, but what does that mean for them? We're likely to see an entire shift in thinking about the employee value proposition, and the emphasis is set to become small employee, big value proposition. Does that make sense? So your go-to in the market is going to be less about the employee value proposition, but more about what your organization can bring to the table for people. When asked how artificial intelligence can help address well-being concerns, I do need to jump back to my slides on this one. The employee wellness items like environment and workplace design, alongside a shift from less menial to more creative work, out-index trends such as wearables and tracking apps. So what we're seeing already with some of the data that's coming through is that people are choosing to work for organizations and are looking for well-being initiatives built around what does my experience look like? And in fact, we've got an entire team now that talk purely about the employee experience with clients. How do you go from what is your fairly standard package, your standard benefits, your standard communications, maybe a couple of apps, to actually how do you make people feel? Because that's what they remember, not what you say. Similarly for benefits, our research shows that they need to be simpler and easier to engage with, more dynamic to reflect new working patterns, and continuing the trend for deep levels of personalization, your benefit packages need to reflect the DNA of your people and that of your business. Right, coming to close, and we've managed it, people. 45 minutes in 19 minutes, 42 seconds. All right, let me close with some final thoughts from a guy called Tirath Verdi. Anybody heard of Tirath? He's our artificial intelligence guru. We employed Tirath about 18 months ago. He writes lots of blogs. He designs loads of clever tech. He's a data analyst. He's a data scientist. He's a futurologist. And yet he speaks human exceptionally well. Most of our data guys and girls just simply don't. I asked Tirath for his views on the near-term consequences of this hybrid world. He laughed when I used the phrase near-term. He said, Alistair, this isn't near-term. This is happening now. So he gave me a list of examples. This isn't the slide I wanted to see, but never mind. We're already removing the human from the recruitment process. That's collectively. We're doing it for clients. We're removing the human from the recruitment process. Anybody here use LinkedIn? Okay, there you go. The world's greatest recruitment tool. And it's all driven by artificial intelligence. And your people are engaging it. How many people have updated the Bing here today? How many photographs are you seeing it? Debbie Donovan yesterday put one out about the Reba thing, and my profile went mental. If I were looking to leave the organization, I'd probably use it. That's got nothing to do with people anymore. People have moved that. We're using chatbots and tutor bots to deliver the onboarding programs. We've launched one recently as well. The pre-boarding experience is now practically got no human involvement whatsoever. We've delivered for clients training programs that have no human touch points at all, yet they feel very much like that. We're eliminating the human from the administrative process. And then Tirath showed me what artificial can really do. Has anybody seen the Google app where, just be a second, I'll finish this. Give me 2 seconds. You've got to type this into Google later on, right? Google built an artificial intelligence engine and then taught it to engage with restaurant staff using a telephone. Has anybody seen that? Yeah? Just go into Google and then type in Google Restaurant app. You can listen to the artificial intelligence having a conversation like this on how to book it. I'm sorry, we're busy on Tuesday. Could you do Wednesday at 2? Yeah, we could do Wednesday at 2. Table for 4. It's all done by computer. It's absolutely mind-blowing. So we're using chatbots now to redefine that entire experience. So whether this is good news or a sad revelation for you depends on where you stand on the fault line of that technological development. For me, this presents significant opportunity for organizations to rethink the employee value proposition, but also to be more relevant and to win in the world of work. There you go. 20 minutes. Thank you.